You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Rapping with Dr. Jacqueline connects you with experts from all over the world to help you take charge of your career, your business, and your life. Rap along with us. Visit drjacqueline.com to learn how to become a guest or a sponsor. And now, the doctor is in.
Hello and welcome to Rapping with Dr. Jacqueline presents A Better You, live on Business Talk Radio and social media. I am your host and executive producer, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. I am a certified life and career coach. Our show, A Better You, is a program where our presenters and our panelists share lessons from their areas of expertise. So it's lessons from the best coaches, consultants, and trusted advisors. Our presenters will have 15 minutes to educate us, to train us, to motivate us, to delight us. And then as panelists, we'll just talk about the presentation and the takeaways that are key for all of us being a better person. Let's welcome our guests for this week. We have Dear James joining us from California. We have Dean Carroll joining us from New Jersey. And we have Mildred Muhammad joining us from Maryland. Hi, it's great to see you.
Great to be here.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So exciting. Good morning. So, Dear James, you are out in California. I know it's early there. You probably had to get up and do your makeup.
Rise and shine. You can see I got my hair done, everything. I'm ready to go. I'm ready for this.
It's fabulous. I love it. So I thought what we could do is we could go around and each of you give some information to our audience about who you are, what you do, and what you hope people will take away from today. How does that sound?
Sounds good. Sounds like a plan.
Excellent. Let's start with Dear James.
Good morning, everyone. I'm an intuitive advice columnist, radio host, author, and consultant. I deal with on a private basis, individual, group, and corporate clients and so forth. And so I listen to the unseen and intuit the advice and so forth and the direction and the guidance. A lot of people use the term life coaching. I use the term soul coaching. It's to lead with the soul. And so once you make your soul source connection, it's leading with the soul. You're listening to your own intuitive compass, your guidance. And what I hope you all take away from these amazing presenters today is the wisdom that they share, the goodness that they share with all of us, and the inspiration that can come from it.
Thank you, Dear James. You're going to be a panelist today. And I wanted to let our audience know that I have hired Dear James. I have worked with him and he was spot on. He told me some things that I didn't want to hear. And of course, he was the messenger. And I was like, wake up, girl. You got to get yourself together. So, so thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Okay. Let's go next to Mr. Dean Carroll.
Well, it's great to be with you all this morning. And it's such a treat, Jacqueline, to have you invite me. I appreciate it. So my name is Dean Carroll. I'm a career coach. I spent more than 30 years in the publishing business. And about 6 years ago, I left that to go back to school and get retraining and coaching. And I do work now as a career development coach. I do sales training. And I also have courses with LinkedIn Learning. And I am the author of the book called Mastering the Basics. And what I like to talk about with people is how we all can maximize the skills we were given. And I jokingly say that I was not a 4.0 student. I was a 3.0 because of extra credit. So how do you become successful in business and life? And I'd like to talk to people about how we maximize the basic skills that we were all given. So I'm excited to do that today.
Outstanding, Dean. And by the way, your book, everyone should have that. Everyone who is in business or who cares about succeeding personally or professionally should pick up a copy of this book, Mastering the Basics. Where can we find it? Amazon and?
Amazon, Barnes & Noble. I always like to help our local independent retailer too. So you can call your local bookstore and they'll get it very easily for you.
Excellent. Well, we will be back to you as you're our first presenter. On to Mildred Muhammad. Hello, Mildred.
Hello, Dr. Jacqueline. It's so wonderful to be here with you again and to meet your other two hosts as well. I am Mildred Muhammad. I'm an award-winning global keynote speaker as well as a certified
Okay. Mildred is unfortunately frozen at the moment. So this happens, right, with technology. We just roll with it. We will come back to her. So, Dean, how do you feel about starting your presentation?
Absolutely. We'll go right into it.
Okay, so I just want to let our audience know, I see you. I've got my phones here. I see you're watching, you're listening. I can't see that, but I know you are. So please share your comments with us. Go onto Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, well, we're not on Twitter, don't go there, YouTube, and Twitch TV, and let us know your comments because we really care to hear from you. All right, Dean, let me just solo you, and let me find our timer here. And I'm going to mute the rest of us. Okay, here you go.
Well, again, thank you so much for letting me join you all today. And we've all been in that position with poor Mildred when the computer freezes and there's that worst feeling. And you know what it is, Mildred? We've all been there. So when you're back live, don't worry. We've all experienced that. And as I said before, I've been in the publishing business for more than 30 years. And I had the greatest job in the world. I worked with large publishing companies like Simon & Schuster and Wiley with terrific sales teams. And so you would say that, well, why did you leave that if it was such a great job? Well, the business changed. The world changed back around 2008. The marketplace changed. The world economic crisis began, and the publishing industry certainly changed dramatically. And one of the things I loved about my job as the head of sales for the company that I was with was coaching and training and motivating. And unfortunately, with the way the world changed, my job shifted where I was constantly doing reorganizations or restructuring, which is a nice way of saying I had to let people go. And that is not fun. And ironically, it's 6 years ago today, I left my job in the corporate world to go back to school. It's 6 years ago this very day. And I left my other job on good terms. I'm still good friends with the company I worked with, but I wanted a change in my career. And I went back to New York University. I took courses in coaching and leadership and also human resources. And I began a path of working with people in the middle stages of their career on learning how to maximize their abilities. So I do coaching probably 30% of the time. I love salespeople. I love to talk about the basics of sales. I'm not a salesperson who believes in, manipulative sales approaches. I don't like the Alec Baldwin approach or the Wolf of Wall Street approach. I'm a firm believer of being authentic and genuine. So that's what I teach. And I also have courses with the training division of LinkedIn Learning. And I have 13 courses with them with over 700,000 views. And that has been such a treat to work with that terrific organization. So what I want to talk about today are some of the things that people ask me. I've worked with and hired hundreds of people. I've worked in organizations with thousands of people, and I've spoken to large audiences of 500, 600 people at a time. And so people ask me, what are the skills that stand out to you when you've interviewed people, or what are the skills that you look for when you're hiring, or the people that are part of the companies that you've worked with? So what I thought I'd do is pick 15 qualities and 15 skills and do a little rapid fire description of each one. You may not agree with everyone, and everybody is different, and everybody looks for certain skill sets in people, but these are the ones that mean a lot to me. And I always start off with number one is emotional intelligence. And people say, wow, that's your number one priority? Well, emotional intelligence shows that you have good people skills, social skills, you're aware, you show empathy to others, you listen, you care. And what better people to work with somebody who has strong emotional intelligence? Years ago, I read a book by the author Daniel Goleman, who wrote Emotional Intelligence, and that's really the Bible of the subject. Then years later, Dr. Travis Bradberry wrote a book called Emotional Intelligence 2.0. And I would urge everyone to learn more about emotional intelligence and the importance that is both in our business lives and in our personal lives. So emotional intelligence, number one on my list. The next one, I always look for people who are confident and believe in their abilities. Now that's easier said than done. And oftentimes people will say to me, Dean, you're always so upbeat, always so confident. Are you always like that? And I always say to people, having your confidence and building it is probably the hardest thing to do, because at every time in our life and every time in our careers, we always can doubt our abilities. And I refer to a message that I keep in my wallet. I've had in my wallet for many, many years now. And it was early in my career when I was doubting my abilities. And I say, I want you to always remember to think back to this day many years ago when things weren't so good, where my confidence wasn't at the level it should be. And I've kept it in my wallet for more than 3 decades. And every once in a while, I refer to it because, you know what, our confidence sometimes does get, hurt and lowered. But I look for people who can rebound from that. So you have times when your confidence may not be at the highest levels, but you have to find ways to look and be able to rebound and recover. I like people who like to be coached and like to be trained. If you think you've learned it all, then you're wrong. I like people who say, I'm open to new ideas. I need to learn new things. Dr. Jacklin, look at you. It's like you've learned the technology of running these shows. I mean, this is amazing. Would you have ever thought you'd be doing this 5 years ago? What if I have ever thought I'd be doing this 5 years ago? When I talk to salespeople, I say, if you're selling like you were 5 years ago, if you're doing it the same way now, well, then you're behind the times. And that's true in every profession. So when people that I work with, I like those who like to be trained, like to be coached. And I go back to that catchphrase, always be learning. They're always looking for ways to improve. I talk about wanting to work with people who are positive. Well, of course we do. But I want to work with people who truly believe and are optimistic. They're realistic, positive, and optimistic. Those are people I want to associate myself with. With people who always are, it's sunny today, but it's going to be raining tomorrow. That's not who I want to be with, to be honest with you. And especially during these turbulent times, it is so important to align yourself with people who are realistic that it is a difficult time we're going through right now, but are optimistic to believe that the future is going to be better. I posted a video yesterday on LinkedIn where I talked about where it's okay to raise your hand when you need assistance or need help. And I'm a really optimistic and positive person, but there are times when I do need help and do need assistance. So it's being positive, being realistic, but also being confident enough in yourself to raise your hand when you need assistance. The next one is might surprise you, but it's I like people who embrace new technology. And through the years, I remember when the cell phones first came out, I remember saying, who's going to need this? I like my private time in the car or the private time commuting. But of course, now, we've all got cell phones. We've all got mobile devices, and we've all got new computers. I love new technology. That doesn't mean I embrace it immediately because I need to be trained on it. But I love the new technology that's available, no matter in what business you're in. In sales, we talk about, customer relationship management software where we keep all of our data in one spot. Well, years ago, when I first got into sales, we kept it in folders. I'm dating myself, but imagine running a business now like we did decades ago. It would be impossible. So I like people who embrace new technology. Should go without saying, but I always have to believe in people who are ethical and honest. Seems like a no-brainer. But unfortunately, no matter what business we're in or what profession we may be involved with, there are those people who just don't have good ethics and aren't honest. And those are people you need to be like a pinball and just get away from them as fast as you can. Don't think that you can change them immediately. You can work with them. But it's the old line, you can help somebody once, but if you fall into that trap where they've hurt you 2 times, that's your mistake. So I try to avoid people who are unethical and honest. Once you've done something to repair that, to damage that, it is impossible to repair, if ever. It takes decades. And even then, it may never come back to the full level where it should be before you did anything unethical or unhonest. It's important, especially now during these times, I look for people who are able to prioritize. Before all of this COVID situation began, we may have had to-do lists that were 10 items or 15 items. It is impossible now. And you need to prioritize the key things that you want to accomplish. For me, I always use the line, focus on 3 things. Again, in that video I spoke about yesterday that I posted on LinkedIn, I talked about, for me, during the month of February, I have 3 initiatives. That's it. Now, of course, I'm going to be doing other things, but I am truly focused on the priorities of the 3 main items that I want to accomplish. And I look for people who believe in that too. Honoring your commitments is important. That's on my list. People who say, yes, I'm going to do that. Well, you need to fulfill on that obligation. You're committing yourself to a project, a goal, or some initiative with one of your teammates or partners, or me saying to Dr. Jacqueline, I'm going to be here today and be prepared. Well, yes, you have to honor that commitment. That's true whether you're in sales, if you're in marketing, if you're in the medical community, no matter what business you may be in. Honoring your commitments to your friends, your family, your coworkers, and anyone is so critically essential. The next one is being resilient. Boy, if there ever was a time where we need to be resilient, it is now. And so people who can work their way through turbulent times, I think, is so critically important. So being resilient means, how do we work our way since last March, when this COVID situation first began and we all shut down and we've all gone through change, how we manage that roller coaster of life and business and are resilient to be able to come out on the other end of this in a positive framework. So I look for people who are resilient. Good communicators, we're all different. I like to talk. I like to speak. I like being with people. Dr. Jacqueline, you're the same way. And it's a learning path of how you are a good communicator and you're able to collaborate and work with others. So I like people who are able to work with and collaborate with others. This one might surprise you. Understanding a profit and loss statement, understanding finances. I'm not saying you need to be a CPA. I'm not saying you need to know the inner workings of financial strategy, but you need to know the basics of a profit and loss statement. And I think that's essential. No matter what business you're in, you need to know the basics of a financial plan, a P&L, and also how to use an Excel spreadsheet. You'd be shocked at how many people I meet that say, well, I'm really not too good with that. Well, there are very many basic classes you can take on the foundations of financial planning and financial knowledge. I like people who are curious, ask good questions, listen. It's somebody who understands. It goes back to emotional intelligence. You're curious, and most importantly, you listen. I'm going to sound like everybody's uncle here, but I'm a strong believer in the strong work ethic. That doesn't mean you work 70 hours a week. I'm talking about you're working, if you've got a 9-to-5 job or you've got a 40-hour work week, that you commit to it. A strong work ethic, I think, separates those who say, well, you know what, I'm just going to do a half-hearted effort. Now, I need somebody who is there committed to doing the job at the level that it should be. So strong work ethic, I think, is so critically important. Number 15 is being authentic, being genuine. And I like the fact that through the years that people say, Dean, you are what you are. What you see is what you get. And I think I take that as a real compliment, because it goes back to what I think is also one of the most essential thing is our character. Because at the end of the day, that's who we really are, being authentic, being genuine, and what our character really is. And our character is how you act when no one is actually looking at you. Are you doing good deeds? Are you able to look at yourself in the mirror and be happy with what you're seeing and what you're doing? And I have one bonus one for you. And ironically, Dr. Jacqueline, you had a guest on yesterday, Heather Dean, and you both talked about planning and preparation. And those who have worked with me through the years know I always talk about that. It goes back to honoring your commitments and being ready, but being planned and prepared and ready to, like I am today, to be with you today. I actually just didn't show up just before this and say, oh, I'm going to be with Dr. Jacqueline today. I thought about this. I gave it care and dedication and commitment. So those are my lessons. And that's something that I talk about a lot in my book, Mastering the Basics, which is 200 topics of basic business skills and how you can become successful and happy by working and maximizing the skills that we were all given as human beings. So, Dr. Jacqueline, thank you so much for letting me join you today, and I'd love to hear your feedback later on in the show.
Yeah.
It's exceptional. Oh my gosh. I feel like I just went to a Tony Robbins retreat for a week. Oh my God. I don't even need to go there anymore. Forget it. Wow.
Yeah.
And you know what, Dean, to your point, when you were just saying about being prepared, that came through. You were so prepared. You nailed that presentation. So anybody out there who wants to follow someone who knows how to present, there he is, Mr. Dean Carroll. So let's talk. And by the way, welcome back, Mildred. It's nice to see you.
My computer froze. It just froze. I don't know how much of my presentation you heard, but hey, I'm ready. That's about fine.
Yeah, no, we didn't hear anything from your presentation. So before you present, we'll have you
Okay.
share that. So let's talk about Dean's presentation. I was furiously taking notes here because everything that you mentioned, this is like the Bible right here. It's another version, you know what I mean? So I'm going to start with you, dear James.
Well, I was incredibly and duly impressed and excited and motivated, Dean, because we're on Dr. Jacqueline, A Better You. And everything that you spoke to on your list, the words that were coming to me was the genuine appreciation there was a nostalgic factor of the fact that I hope and pray that for the future, the best of this list, because it speaks to the best of us, it speaks to who we all should be and aspire to. It's a roadmap of simple life, of living, let alone apply it to business, but just show up that way in life. And so it was incredibly, and the word hopeful. So it was like the best of us from the past, because there was a point where everything that you spoke to was something that people just naturally and organically did. And all of a sudden we've kind of come into an era and a time where we've kind of seen the sparks, the rubber comes off the wheels and the sparks are flying, and a killer be killed world. And we've forgotten these simple, basic care. And I want to go to the 5 C's. You said these words. One of them that you said multiple times was change. Then the word confidence, communication, character, and care. And these 5 C's are so powerful in your statement, in your presentation. So I was really just inspired. And one last thing, the profit and loss. Again, applying it to simple basics of balancing a checkbook, living your life properly, and so forth, understanding a profit and loss. But again, applying that to your life, the way, do you understand the profit and loss of how you're living your life, of how you're interacting with your fellow humans? Those were my takeaways. It was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. Thank you. Thank
you, James, very much. It's interesting. One of the things I do when I work with people, and I have it in my book, is I do in business, they call it the SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. I love it doing the personal SWOT analysis. What am I doing well? What do I need to improve? And to go to your point, James, I think it's also important at the end of the day, we just need to be ourselves. And I had times in my career where I was trying to over-impress or overdo it. Then I realized, that's too hard. Just be yourself. And improve the skills that we were all given, and that's how you can be happier and better. That does not mean that every day is a sunny day. I always remind people of that. There's always going to be a day when you have to hitch up your pants and figure out how we're going to do this better. So, but thank you for your feedback on that. Absolutely, and the authentic factor. I'm sorry, just to say, and as you just said, show up, be authentic, because we come in whole and complete. We're already here. So to your point and truth, be. You'll be naturally guided and arrive.
That was beautiful. Yeah, that was beautiful, dear James. I wanted to say hello. We have a hi from Spooky Little Kitty on Twitch. Hello, thank you for watching. And we also want to say hello to Joe Colonna and to Trish Hoban. I'm on one of the pages. I didn't get to the others yet, but hello and thank you for watching. So, Dean, what I wanted to say is you and I have had conversations back and forth, and one thing that we've discussed is how people will have one persona in business and then another in their personal life, and there's a huge disconnect there. And so for that, it's kind of being authentic, being genuine, and you can't really trust someone because you don't know who that person is. Right. Yeah, I think that's a lesson. I think we all fall into that trap sometimes. I mean, it's very easy to say, I never act like that. I think we all do it every once in a while. I know I did it early in my career, as I mentioned before, and it's a lot easier. Just be yourself. And it's, again, flaws and all,
pros and cons. And then what you try to do is improve your flaws, make them go away, improve the things that you're not doing as well at. And this makes life a lot easier. And what you see is what you get.
Really valid points. I know when I started doing these shows in August, I was introducing the show like, oh yes, live Rapid Blood, and my partner Al, he said, "What are you doing? You know, that's not who you are." Why? I said, "Well, because I think that's what people expect. That if you're," he's like, "No, people are going to follow you for being you." So.
You know, when I was in college, I did sports broadcasting, and then you had that broadcaster's voice. Hi, I'm Dean Carroll. You know, or I did the music. Hi, this is WABC. What's in rock? You know, and it was like, you know, who is that? It's just a fun story that I talk about during my presentations. Thank you again.
That's great. I also wanted to mention when you said that you might be surprised by this one, I was about understanding P&Ls, a financial statement, and an Excel spreadsheet. That's a big one because we have so much data and information that we need to really put it into spreadsheets. And if you don't know how to use that, that's a big loss.
Yeah, and again, I don't think you don't need to learn and hear things about pivot tables and all these things. You need to know, again, it goes back to the basics. You know, what's what's net income? What's gross income? And how do you do a formula on a spreadsheet? How do you track your budgets, your numbers? And again, it's just more of a case I'm just surprised through the years when somebody may say in a management position, well, you know, I have my financial person will take care of that for me. Well, you got to figure it out. You do it. You know, so I think it's just, again, you don't need to be a CPA, but you need to have some basic financial training. It's important for all of our parts of our life.
Agreed.
Well, and just to tag onto that, it also, remember, numbers never lie. And so it's a reminder that truth matters, facts matter. The ability to discern the difference, the ability to utilize those and invoke them in your life. Utilize that. And a profit and loss, as simple as balancing a checkbook or working with Excel. You're dealing with data, you're dealing with facts. Yes, it can be manipulated, but the point is, if you want a clean outcome, work with the truth.
Right.
Bingo. Exactly right. And I believe that. And so it's numbers don't lie.
My dad was a businessman. He was a new car dealer. And I remember he was back in the service department doing something. I said, Dad, what are you doing? He said, I'm finding out what's going on back here. He said, you need to know every aspect of your business. He said, because if you don't, he said, I believe people are good, but people will rob you blind if you don't know what's going on. So I never forgot about that. So that makes sense what you're saying, Dean.
Well, that's a great lesson. Also, if you're a leader and you're a manager, you don't know what's going on in your organization, then you're a lousy leader. And that goes from the best companies. You know, the Glassdoor just announced their list of the best companies that people like to work for, and the same list is always out there. And in every one of those companies, the CEOs are actively involved in the organization. They're not in their ivory tower. They're out working with the staff. They're getting to know people. Again, going back to my list, emotional intelligence, listening, learning, collaborating. And they're out there, and that's why you see names like Google, Microsoft, LinkedIn. They're always on the best lists because their CEOs are actively involved, and that spreads throughout the entire organization. Now you got me all wound up.
I know.
You got us all wound up.
We're going to stay here all day. I love it. Yes, so we're going to take a break. Mildred, we wanted to hear from you too, but we need to take a break because I already forgot to take the first break. So we're taking the second break, and then we'll come back. Mildred, your thoughts on Dean's presentation, and then
I'll take my medication.
Okay. All right, stay with us here. Wrapping with Dr. Jacqueline presents A Better You live on Business Talk Radio and social media. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hey everybody, my name is Ralph Graves Jr. I'm the host of the Ralph Graves Jr. Show, and I want to invite you to pick up my book, Unstoppable. I wrote a book called Unstoppable. It's 7 universal laws that will transform how you pursue and achieve success. The one thing that my 20 years of law enforcement has taught me is that no matter who you are, we are all governed by universal laws, like gravity. But in this book, we're going to talk about laws like the law of forgiveness, laws like the law of control, the law of intelligent practice, the law of expectancy. I was able to see how those, no matter what their background was, those who identified and treated these laws with respect, they were able to go on and lead successful lives. So pick up this book, and you can go ahead and pick it up at Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, RalphGravesJr.com, where anywhere where fine books are sold. Thank you.
There are 7.7 billion people on Earth today. 40% of these people are under the age of 25. Young adults are the most fertile mission field in the world today. In Scripture, we see Jesus pouring his life into 12 young adults who he equipped to change the world and all of history. Like Jesus, we believe that the best approach to reach the world with the gospel is to invest in young, emerging leaders and equip them to build disciple-making movements. Concentric is the notion of surrounding and sharing a common center. Our center is the model and strategy of Jesus for both leadership development and ministry formation. As a global alliance, we provide equipping in biblical leadership based on Jesus' example in the New Testament. Jesus modeled for us how to make disciples that reproduce. Focusing on leadership development is key to creating movements that spread the gospel and Jesus' disciple-making strategy to young leaders around the globe. Our Ministry Alliance partners are actively equipping leaders and building movements of multiplication that reproduce the life of Christ. Join us today to equip young leaders with Jesus' strategy that will change cities and nations.
The session that we had with BCAT was really entertaining and enlightening. We were able to put together some very specific steps that we as individuals can take, and it was really fun to all come together and see sort of where we're going as a team and how we can all get there together.
We had a tremendous experience with the BCAP partners. One of the challenges that we have as an organization is to make sure that we have the right people in the right chairs doing the right thing. To do that well, you have to have synergy. You can try to dream up ways to make sure that your group does that, or you can rely on experts. We would recommend BCAP partners to anybody who's looking to take their organization to the next level.
Academy Sedan and Limo is a full-service transportation company serving the Philadelphia metropolitan area with full knowledge of the New York City, Baltimore, and Washington, D.C. areas. We pride ourselves on being the most dependable, conscientious company in the industry. Our always on-time service and dependable pricing make us the company to call for any event or occasion. Our vehicles can accommodate any size party for any occasion. Our vehicles range from four-door sedans to SUVs to minivans to limo buses to full-size tour buses and can accommodate groups of 2 to 100. We offer airport shuttle service or over-the-road service without limitation regarding mileage or time, and no drive is too long or too far. So if you find yourself in need of transportation of any type with any vehicle, give us a call at 610-842-4564 and let us show you what a real transportation company can do for you.
Use code ACADEMY2020 to receive 20% off your first 3 rides, including parking and tolls.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is, the most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Welcome back to Rapping with Dr. Jacqueline presents A Better You. I'm so excited. I feel like I've had so much caffeine. I don't even drink caffeine. Our guests
over here.
Our guests today are Dear James, Mildred Muhammad, and Dean Carroll. And the purpose of our show is for you, our audience, to hear and receive lessons from the best coaches, consultants, and trusted advisors. I want to give a shout out to Eddie Buxtell and also to Al Cini. I know you guys are out there too. Okay, Mildred, before we go to your presentation, would you give an overview of yourself, and then we'll hear what you thought of Dean's presentation, your takeaways.
Okay. So I'm Mildred Muhammad. I'm an award-winning global keynote speaker. I'm a certified personal and professional development coach. I speak on the issues of domestic violence. What brought me to that is most people remember the DC sniper. He was my husband. But what most people don't know is that I was the intended target. So the theory was he was killing innocent people to cover up my murder so that he could come in as the grieving father and get custody of our children. So I turned lemons into lemonade, became a speaker to share my story around the world, and at the same time, I began to receive messages from other victims who were finding it very difficult to move forward. And now that we're in a pandemic, domestic violence has evolved into a pandemic within a pandemic, and we are not addressing this issue as we should. There are many people out there, men and women, who are suffering emotionally. They may not always have a physical assault, but the verbal, the psychological assaults are real. And these are the people that are contacting me for help. It's important to understand that just because you are in this situation does not mean that you cannot heal and does not mean you cannot move forward. If anyone is telling you that, you need to get away from them really quick because they are not interested in helping you to move forward and to find out who you are after the trauma because you're not the same person as you were before.
Wow, Mildred, that's so powerful. It's your story is incredible, and I just want to let our audience know that I had reached out to you through LinkedIn to see if you would come on one of our shows. And as I mentioned before the show began, I never thought in a million years when I saw this stage and all the people who were there watching your presentation that I'd hear anything back. And I did. I heard back from your publicist and I was put in touch with you. You came on the show. It was supposed to be an hour show. The show was 90 minutes. We could have kept going and going. And now I've hired you as my own coach. So I think it's we've come full circle. So it's pretty amazing. Mildred, any feedback that you have, any takeaways from Dean's presentation?
Yes, I did. I was able to hear some of it because my computer froze, but I thought that your presentation was very on point, especially with the resilience in order to move forward. To even though you've come across a few bumps in the road, just that energy and that courage to tap into that who you really are to forge forward. Not everybody can do that. And so I thought that was very important how you worded it so that it wouldn't be so huge for people to think that, I can't do that. And also with your profit and loss, with your business plan and all of that, because I had to do that when I was on my own, when I'm on my own to create my own company so that I can move the way I needed to move without feeling clamped down where I couldn't go as I needed to go to help others. So I thought your presentation was very great.
Thank you, Mildred, very much.
Mildred, before you begin, can you just share with our audience, you've written, is it 6 books, 7 books?
9.
9. Oh my gosh.
Wow. I wrote 6 and I collaborated with others on 3.
Excellent. Well,
So
go ahead, I'm sorry.
No.
I was going to say, we're excited for your presentation, right?
Right.
So are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay, I'm going to spotlight you and I'm going to set up the timer. Thank you to Mr. Sini for giving us this 15-minute timer. Okay, here we go. I'm going to mute the rest of us.
Okay. So thank you, Dr. Jacqueline, for allowing me to be on your show, A Better You. It's important to understand that when you are trying to move from a traumatic experience, you cannot be hard on yourself because you're not that person that you were before the trauma began. Rather, you are a victim of crime, meaning someone has caused you to pause in your life. Because when you can't move forward, somebody has pushed pause. Now you're trying to figure out what it is you need to do in order to move forward and still be that same person. So the first thing that you should understand, recognize, and accept is you're not the same person. Pain before trauma has a different meaning after trauma. You can try to go back to who you were, but you will never return. So what you should do is try to understand who you are now. Fall in love with the person you are now. Take with you that pain, take it with you, use it as fuel to propel you forward. It's not going to happen overnight. Many people tell you, you need to stop crying. I encourage you to cry because every tear is one step closer to your healing. The more you cry, the more you heal. That's just the way it works. Some men don't like to cry, but there's a song back in the day that says men cry in the rain because they don't want anybody to know their pain. They're not comfortable expressing their pain, especially if they're victims of domestic violence, because men can be victims of domestic violence as well. They may not be so regarding a physical assault, but the emotional, the psychological pain that men have, they bury it, they summarize their pain, they don't articulate it well. They want to make sure everyone else is not aware of their pain, and it's very difficult when I'm working with men to get them to understand it's okay to feel the way that you feel. I have to make sure that they understand the environment that we're in is a safe place. And it's okay for you to deposit your emotions with me. This is confidential. No one will know how you feel unless you tell them. Once that foundation is laid, then that's when people really open up. No one wants to be judged. No one wants to be rejected. No one wants to feel that other people don't accept them. But they have to understand, or you have to understand, that people pleasing is a large part of that too. When you have an abuser that has authority in a leadership position, the first thing people do is protect the abuser. It's just a natural response. So when you are a victim and you go to a family member or a friend and you tell them, I'm experiencing these emotions and I'm experiencing this type of abuse. And the first thing they say is, he or she would not do that, you're in trouble because they are going to go back to their friend, their family member, their colleague, and let them know that you are saying untruths about them. But no one lives with the abuser but you. As I stated earlier, that domestic violence has evolved from a worldwide epidemic into a worldwide pandemic. Do you know that when this pandemic came to the forefront and governments all over the world, companies all over the world began to talk about stay at home orders, my first response was, oh my God, what are the victims going to do now? COVID is a gift to abusers. Why do I say that? Because there's no need for me to try to make you stay home. There's no need for me to keep you up under my thumb. I have total control as an abuser. I control the internet. I control whether I take care of the children while you're working. I control the money. I control packages coming in and going out. That's why I wrote an ebook called Teleworking During the Pandemic. It's a safety guide for victims and an awareness for bystanders as well as employers. There are victims right now. Every 9 to 15 seconds, a woman is abused, right? That was before the pandemic. Now, we don't know. Organizations have had to change the way they help. They weren't able to receive victims into transitional homes or shelters because they had to close because of COVID. Organizations were not open, could not do intake sessions. We could only do phone, maybe. I'm grateful that everything is better now. So now we can go out and help them. Recently, there was a woman who called the Disney Resort Booker hotline to report domestic violence because she didn't want her abuser to know that she was calling 911. There are some that call to order a pizza, and now law enforcement all over the country have partnered with these other companies so that they can know, hey, when a victim calls, she may say this, that's because she doesn't want the abuser to know and to call us immediately. We've had to do so many different things. Now, as a victim of domestic violence, survivor, warrior, however you want to call yourself. Someone tells you you cannot heal, please don't listen to them. They said the same thing to me. They told me that me and my children, I had to raise 3 children in the spotlight, media everywhere. They wanted to know everything about us. They told us we would never heal. They even said that we weren't victims. They blamed me. They said if I would have stayed with him, then he just would have killed me. If I would have stayed on the West Coast, then the people on the East Coast would still be alive. How dare I call me and my children victims when none of us were hurt or killed? And how dare I bring this drama into this quiet community? They needed someone to blame. Everybody needed someone to blame. So they blamed me, victim blaming to the highest level. Did I argue back with people? Nope. Did I try to defend myself? Nope. Did I try to defend John? Nope. Because everyone is entitled to their emotion. Everyone is entitled to feel the way that they want to feel. Their opinion is not my reality. I know who I am. I know my reality, and I do not allow other people's opinions to direct my path. And that's what you have to do. Know who you are, where you're going, because if you don't have your own plan, you will be a part of somebody else's plan. And we don't want to do that, not in 2021. We're not trying to do that this year. We're trying to do something different. We're trying to move in a different way so that what we're doing is called self love. You have to love yourself more than you love your abuser. When you love yourself and you're able to move forward, you will never allow anyone to treat you like that again. You won't, because you love yourself and you have a new definition of who you are. Because right now we're in a period of self discovery of who we used to be based on who we are, who how we're going to move versus how we moved. We're moving in a different energy. We're moving in a different arena. We're moving in a different way. We can't just go to the store anymore without a face mask, without hand sanitizers. Different moves. You have to eat healthy. We talk about our outside body. You have to do the work inside. You have to list those things as Mr. Dean was saying. You have to list those things inside of you that are your weaknesses and your challenges and your pros and your cons. You have to do that with self because nobody knows you but you. People can give you a snippet of who they think you are, but you know who you are. You know. Take time to sit down, to get that sheet of paper, draw a line down the middle, pros and cons about yourself. Be brave to recognize the things that you need to change so that your world can be better. How we think about ourselves in our minds is a reflection of the environment that we are. So if you're all jumping up in your head and you don't know which way you're going when you look around, your house is not clean, your desk is not clean, you don't see a clear path. But once you start to get clear here, then you start cleaning up. That lets you know you're ready to move forward. Something inside of you clicked or shifted to where your energy is flowing differently, and now you're ready to move in the direction that your spirit is telling you to move. It's not, you may say, well, I don't know how to do that. All you have to do is sit quietly and listen. That little voice is going to tell you what you need to do. Trust that. Trust that. Have you ever caught yourself saying, I should have followed my first mind because you decided to do something different? Follow your first mind. It's okay to do that. When you're not clear or sure of what you should do, that's okay. Sometimes moving forward takes time. Epiphanies come when you are alone. They don't come when you are with a lot of people. So sometimes you have to sit alone and think about what you want to do. Write down what you want to do. Because once you get it out of your head onto paper, it becomes real. And then you have to move out. Journaling is a wonderful self discovery tool method that I use in order to help others. When I'm used, this is the journal that I present in my classes, in my sessions. Because if you don't know who you are on the inside, you can't move forward. This journal, I start the sentences, but you complete them because I'm trying to tap into a particular emotion. You may have been afraid to tell other people, but you got to get it out in order to see it, to feel it, to understand it, to accept it, and then to move on from it. The tears you cried for that issue, you will never drop a tear for that again. Why? Because we went to the root of the cause. It's just like an onion. As you peel back those layers, you come to understand what's in that layer. And once you understand it, you accept it, then you can move on to the next layer until we get to the root of that onion. Once we get to the root, the issue is resolved within yourself and you won't revisit it again. And even if it comes up again, you recognize it, you'll understand it, and you'll say, you know what, that doesn't bother me anymore. I'm good. I can move forward. There's absolutely nothing wrong with you. You are always enough. Always enough. Don't allow anybody to make you feel that you are less than. In Ephesians 2, God said He created us to be a masterpiece. He didn't say what part of life you had to be in, whether it was trauma or whatever. He said, I created you to be a masterpiece. That means you are one. It is only one you in this whole world. One that makes you authentic, unique, a masterpiece. Walk in that. Never allow anybody to make you feel less than what God created you to be. And that is a masterpiece. Thank you.
Sorry, I have them muted. Sorry, guys. Okay, I'm blown away. I have tears. I am like sweating. I'm like just so moved by that presentation. I wrote down here, deposit their emotions with you, and I've actually had the privilege of doing that. So it's kind of cool. Also, I was really surprised by, but it makes sense when victims they can't call 911, so they have to call Disney World. They have to call for pizza, and they have to tell somebody, "Wow, I can't even imagine what that must be like to be so afraid." Beautiful job, Mildred.
Thank you.
Incredible. And we do have a comment, by the way, from the beautiful Diane Bame. I love be a part of your own plan, not part of someone else's plan. That was great. Thanks, Diane. Dear James, thoughts?
Well, I absolutely, Mildred, I sit in awe. I loved the crescendo of your presentation. You really brought it home. You took us to church, as they would say, and I love that. You took me to church, and I love that. And some of the things that I was literally, the word awareness popped in, and then you mentioned I'd written down the Disney World call center call, because awareness for others in domestic violence situations where people, like you've said, in the pandemic, you can't do always the easy way of calling and so forth. There, the waitress that saw the little boy and held up a sign, "Do you need help?" And so it's a reminder for people to be aware. We won't always see everything, but awareness is key in situations like this, and for your fellow human. We are our brothers and sisters keeper in that sense.
Right.
You personally, the words that just kept coming to me in your presentation and your story is and I understand now why you were speaking to the word resilience in Dean Carroll's presentation, because it was strength, courage, resilience. When we face our individual journeys, what does it take within? And that your story speaks to that so much for me, that to the audience of have courage, have strength, have resilience. You are whole and complete. You're a masterpiece. There are no mistakes. Do it. It's an inside job. And it was just incredibly beautiful. And the other piece I wanted to mention too is the fact that at the root of it, no shame. Whether it's the men, you were talking about men and men cry in the rain, but also domestic violence has this shame around it. And no woman, man, child, no human should ever feel shame for that situation. Seek help, have the strength, the courage. It was just brilliant. I was moved, like Dr. Jacqueline, just absolutely moved. Both you and Dean. I feel like I'm the lucky kid with the golden ticket. I'm Willy Wonka. I'm Charlie. I got the golden ticket. It was an absolute pleasure to be in your company today. Thank you both.
I feel like we're at the Academy Award for speakers. I mean, it's just incredible. Dean, what are your thoughts about Mildred's topic?
Well, Mildred, I went online before today, and I watched a couple of your YouTube videos, and I was moved then. And in 15 minutes, I got chills a number of times, like you both, Dr. Jacqueline and James said. I was moved to tears listening to you. And the undercurrent right now, because of the pandemic, is, like you said, and this is a lot bigger than anybody suspects what's going on right now. And it's the very scary situation. And I'm glad you are one to make that voice heard for people. And, I love what you said. You have a list, you write down your pros and your cons, and the epiphany comes when you were alone. In 15 minutes, there are like 30 quotes that we can use. I mean, Dr. Jacqueline, I now know why you said you went with 90 minutes with me. I mean, I was blown away by your energy, your passion, compassion, and care for people. It just comes across in your voice and in your face and in your eyes. And I kiddingly always tell people I cry when leaves change color. So you got me to go into tears. So God bless you. Terrific. So well done.
Really well done. Thank you, Dean. I don't think I showed Diane's comments, so I just want to make sure that we see that. Which is beautiful, Diane. And we have a new comment from Deborah Wilson. Thank you, Mildred, for sharing that we are all masterpieces, that there is only one of you. You are unique. And yes, that is intended so that we can bring something unique to this world. We are worthy always. Thank you so much for that reminder. That comes from my sister. So thank you, Deborah.
Thank you, Deborah.
This has been truly amazing. First of all, I just want to say to the two of you presented, Mildred and Dean, you were both spot on with the 15 minutes. I mean, it was incredible. Mildred, your last word was right there at that last second. And to your points, it's just pages and pages of notes here. And what I feel blessed about is that I consider the three of you to be my friends, and I can reach out to you. And I'm hoping that our audience realizes they can do the same. They can connect with you, and their lives can change by having you in their life. So part of why we do this is because people want to hear from people who are the best, people who have turned the corner and are ahead of where it is they're trying to get to, and they can share their lessons and their learnings. So thank you for doing that. And dear James, of course, everybody wants to get on a phone call with you and find out what is it you're seeing.
What's happening? What's happening? Well, and just to close with, you talk about your list and this panel today and just this moment. It's like, if life were like this every day, I'm happy to do it, because it's like to surround yourself with this kind of goodness and wisdom and character and it's a gift, and you can see it lights you up. It just literally, I'm vibrating. It's a wonderful gift. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, dear James. I'm running your banner, and for people who are listening on the radio, what's the best way to reach out to you?
They can reach me at www.dearjames.com. They can email me at info@dearjames.com, or they can reach out at 855-830-3800.
Can you give that phone number again, just a little slower?
Yes, 855-830-3800.
Perfect. And they can also find you on LinkedIn, right?
Yes, absolutely. On all social media. Yes.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Mr. Carroll, what's the best way for people to find you?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn every day. Either I'm posting a video or I'm posting some comments. And please connect with me. Please reach out to me. I'd love to hear your feedback. You also can watch my courses on LinkedIn Learning. They're in the sales category, but I talk about basic skills and basic things that involve everything for a business in the business world. So again, thank you so much for letting me join you all today. And what a special hour we've just had.
Thank you, Dean. What's the best way for people to sign up for your LinkedIn course learnings?
You just go on to LinkedIn Learning. You go to LinkedIn or you go to linkedinlearning.com. and type in my name. A number of them are being offered for free right now. And Prepare Yourself for a Career in Sales is one of my best-selling ones. And I don't talk anything about sales. I talk about many of the topics we just talked about this morning. And it's available for free right now. And it's an hour long, and hopefully the same type of energy in there that you're seeing from me today.
Excellent. And Mastering the Basics, your book, we can buy that at Amazon and...
It's on Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com and local retailers, and it's a real pleasure for me to always be able to talk about it with people.
Well, thank you again for being here. And Mildred, how can we get in touch with you?
Well, you can get in contact with me on my website, MildredMuhammad.com. Muhammad is MUHAMMAD.com. You can also purchase my books on there. This is my original story, is Scared Silent, and the one you love becomes the one you fear. And I'm Still Standing, Crawling Out of the Darkness into the Light. As well as other books that I've written also. They are on my website, MildredMuhammad.com. If you'd like to schedule a breakthrough session, which is 30 minutes for free, you can go to myfocusllc.com. 30 minutes free, and we can decide which program is best for you and if you would like to move forward with it.
Excellent. And just to remind our audience, I have broken free and I'm still going thanks to Mildred. So I encourage you to go to her website too.
Absolutely.
Thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it. And I want to say hi to Andrea Warren, who's also watching. I didn't get to go to the other social media sites, but folks are watching. We really appreciate it. So thank you again. And we look forward to seeing you. We've got another show at 1 o'clock. JJ Gott is going to be our guest. And then we have our 4 o'clock show. It's all about dating. And we have a husband and wife couple who met online. Cheryl and Jerry are joining us with our co-host, Lisa Manioki. So that's a wrap for today. Thanks for being here on A Better You.
Thank you.
James, Dr. Jacqueline, thank you.
Thank you all.